If you've made music within the past 10 years, odds are you've encountered AI mixing or mastering in some capacity. Although it was originally met with a lot of excitement, that excitement has seemed to wane over the past 5 years or so, as the results are falling short of users' expectations. So, what's happening with AI music processing? Now, what if I told you that the entire AI industry, AI mixing and mastering included, are predicated on two massive lies? Lies that, if the general public knew, would likely tank the stock market, or at least the NASDAQ. By the end of this video, I'm confident you'll find that this isn't just speculation on my part, but the most likely short-term future for audio-based AI programs. So welcome to Sage Audio, and let's get into why AI mixing and mastering will fail. When AI mastering first came about, mainly through sites like Lander and eMastered, a lot of people, myself included, were worried about what it meant for audio engineers. Although it didn't sound amazing, it was incredibly impressive for the time, and the general consensus was, well, if it sounds as good now, it's probably going to sound just as good as an engineer in the near future. But then, something strange happened. Instead of the AI models improving, the quality of the masters stayed more or less the same. In an attempt to push things forward, these sites started including stripped-down options for different genres, but these amounted to little more than a different EQ curve, some subtle differences in the stereo width, and maybe a bit more or less saturation or compression. Today, AI mastering companies are offering sample packs, plugins, even distribution services, just so potential customers will sign up and hopefully stick around for the monthly fee. So the first important question we have to ask if we want to understand what's happening is, why did it sound so good at first, but it's barely improved since? Now, you might have noticed that despite a huge influx in public interest, funding, and even tech bros claiming AI is about to take over the world, AI feels, for lack of a better word, stupid. For example, I asked it to generate an image of a glass of wine filled to the brim, and this is what it came up with. Something that would hopefully never occur in our world, and it makes little to no sense. And I'm not the first person to ask it to do this either. It's been a running joke for about a year. But still, AI can't figure out what people are asking it to do. But why is it turning something that should look like this into this? Well, in short, AI can't understand context. It doesn't understand that wine goes into a glass, and as more goes into the glass, it increases until it's at the top. Instead, it has thousands upon thousands of images of what it's been told is wine in a glass, and unfortunately for AI, nobody's really uploaded any photos of a glass of wine filled to the brim. And this is why, just like AI image generation, AI mastering is kind of at a standstill. It doesn't matter how much money is poured into a project or a product, at its core, it's incapable of doing two things. First, understanding context, and second, knowing how to use context to solve a problem. Instead, it's relying on the same or a very similar set of algorithms as when it was first created, just with additional data fed into it and training from its developers. And this brings me to the first of the two massive lies that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, because the truth is, AI is not intelligent. AI is a lot of things. It's a complex set of algorithms wrapped in text-to-prompt software. It's a buzzword used on the internet and MSNBC to sell stock and make wealthy people wealthier. But the one thing that artificial intelligence is not is intelligent. Aside from intelligence being difficult to define or pin down, what we call AI now is something a lot less exciting, a set of algorithms. Now, through training, a developer might steer it in the right direction as it attempts to recreate what was fed into it or requested of it, but it doesn't have a fundamental understanding of what it's interacting with, talking about, generating images of, or mixing and mastering. Ask it to do something it hasn't been trained to do, and what you'll end up with is a glass of wine that defies both physics and common sense. If I upload a mix to be mastered, it can measure and attempt to recreate a small to moderate set of variables. For example, if it measures the mix as having a loudness of -18 LUFS, it knows to bring it up to -9 LUFS if I tell it that it's a rock track, or maybe -7 LUFS if I tell it it's a pop track. Now this means that it needs to increase the gain by 9 dB or 11 dB respectively, while introducing a peak limiter, which is something Spotify can do when it normalizes a track. Additionally, it could break the signal up into 4, maybe 5 frequency bandwidths and measure their respective RMS levels. Then, it compares that to a predetermined ratio and adjusts the gain of the separated bands accordingly. This way, it can adhere to a preset frequency response. Now, for a developer, this isn't too complex. All they'd have to do is read some research papers to find good values, adjust it a little bit until they find something that they're confident with, and then have some processors on the back end that can measure and adjust accordingly. Now, the lie is from the name itself. It's not artificial intelligence. But thanks to there being no good definition of intelligence, at least not in this context, the people developing these platforms can call them whatever they want. And you know the worst part about this? Since the code isn't that complex and it's shared publicly on sites like GitHub, all someone would have to do is find it, copy, paste, link it to a website, put an interface over it, and then they have an AI mastering company. Now, if you want to create an AI mastering startup, I'm about to show you how. This is Mastering 2.0, developed by this talented engineer and posted to GitHub for anybody to access. Literally, you could Google this and find it in a matter of seconds. Now, to use it, you download a program called Docker, then follow the instructions on the GitHub page. Once you've followed the 6 or 7 steps, click the link provided in the GitHub page, and you have an algorithm that can master music. Drag and drop your mix and a reference mix, and this free program will measure and imitate the frequency response, RMS levels, peak levels, and width by adjusting the mid-inside images. And if you don't believe me that AI mastering sites are using this program, here are 3 sites that are using this program. And these are just the ones that admit to using it. I'm sure other sites are using it, or they're using something very similar. And if it's different, the question is, how different? When you're trying to imitate an actual master of a song, one in which hundreds or thousands of small nuances were considered and taken into account, either consciously or unconsciously by the mastering engineer, are you going to create a super complex algorithm that can mimic thousands of decisions? Well, no, that's probably too much work. Instead, you'd find the 4 most instantly recognizable and easy to replicate variables, just enough for people to think that they got their money's worth. And to be clear, I'm in no way criticizing the guy who created Mastering. If anything, he's the one who put in the honest work and uploaded it to GitHub for anybody to use. But any company that takes an algorithm and tries to pass it off as an intelligent, thinking, decision-making program is, at least in my opinion, lying. Now you might be wondering, well, so what? It doesn't matter if the algorithm is simple or it's open source. If it sounds good, it sounds good. Well, fortunately, a smart guy named Ben Jordan conducted a double-blind study in which over 100 listeners listened to the same song that was mastered. This song was mastered by various AI mastering sites, by iZotope's AI Mastering Suite, by Mastering 2.0, and of course by actual mastering engineers. Now, I'd recommend you check out his full video and his channel if you haven't yet, but in short, AI mastering came in last place. iZotope's assistant mastering rated slightly better, and funnily enough, Mastering 2.0 was next. So if you want to create an AI mastering company that sounds better than some of the top performing companies, all you'd really have to do is copy Mastering's code. Then in the first and second places were the 2 human mastering engineers. It seems that without any indication of who or what was mastering a track, casual and critical music listeners prefer masters created by actual mastering engineers. Now remember, earlier in the video I said that there are 2 massive lies that are propping up the AI industry, the first being that AI is actually intelligent. But perhaps the second one is more consequential and even bigger. That being, AI will drastically improve soon. Companies based on AI or heavily marketing AI are in a tricky position. They can either admit that the set of algorithms they use isn't intelligent and can't improve the product quick enough to substantiate the hype, or they can lie. If they tell the truth, then we have something similar to the dot-com bubble of the 2000s, in which investors are going to realize they've been misled, pull out their money, and a lot of these companies are going to close their doors for good. It's a lot easier to sell the narrative that AI is going to take over the world, become sentient, and if you want to be in the good graces of our new AI overlords, then you need to invest. But like all bubbles, it'll pop eventually. And this doesn't mean that AI mastering and mixing won't eventually become incredible tools. It's just that it's going to take a lot longer than we expect. And if these companies can't deliver good results soon, funding is going to dry up. And when that happens, the most likely outcome is they fail. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us, Sage Audio has been a mastering studio for 2 decades. To work with us, create a free account, upload your mixes, request mastering, and leave any notes that you'd like. The master is uploaded to your account when it's done for you to review and download. And if you're not completely happy, request a revision. We're not happy with your masters until you are. The standard turnaround is $49 a track, the express turnaround is $59 a track, and it's mastered by actual mastering engineers. If you don't need anything mastered or you'd prefer to do it yourself, leaving us a like and subscribing is a great way to help us out. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.